I'm not entirely certain if there's been enough lag. So, um, it's going on a minute. I suppose I might as well start. Hello. We thought we would kill two birds with one stone tonight. I agreed to come out, and since we're going to be recording a new little story, that you might enjoy seeing the work in progress, as it were. So we're going to be doing that this evening, and depending upon if any or how many of you tune in throughout the process, unfortunately I will not be able to see the questioning going on because the camera is at a distance. I'll definitely check it later, though, or in between the numerous takes. So do be patient. Welcome if there's anyone here. If not, you can always review and catch up later, I suppose. So this time around, we've chosen The Little Red Caboose, which is a wonderful story, all about someone who may not seem all that important, but literally in the end turns out to save the day. So I hope you enjoy that. We're going to go and make a few preparations. I'll be happy to explain them as we go along. I'm not quite as inept technically as they like to think, but one does what one can. So at least they made me a mug of tea this time. It's the thought that counts. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to turn off the fan completely, because the less noise there is, the better. Now I may have to quibble a bit and use the spectacles. Now then, starting the recording. Now the important thing is to pause for a space of time to let the microphone pick up the ambient noise, so it can be filtered out later. So we pause for a few. The Little Red Caboose. Story by Marion Potto. Pictures by Tibor Gergely. The little red caboose always came last. First came the big black engine, puffing and chuffing. Then came the box cars. Then the oil cars. Then the coal cars. Then the flat cars. Sometimes they were switched round in different ways, but the little red caboose always came last. Boys and girls waved at the big black engine. They listened to the box cars and to the oil cars and the coal cars and the flat cars go clickety-clack, 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 clickety-clack. But by the time the little red caboose came along, the boys and girls were turning away, because the little red caboose always came last. "Oh, smoke!" said the little red caboose. "I wish I were a flat car, or a coal car, or an oil car, or a box car, so boys and girls would wave at me. How I wish I were a big black engine puffing and chuffing way up at the front of the train. But I'm just a little old red caboose. Nobody cares for me." One day the train started up a mountain. Up went the big black engine. Up went the box cars. Up went the oil cars. Up went the coal cars. Up went the flat cars. Up went the little red caboose. Hang on tight, little caboose, called the flat car. This is a long, tall mountain, and you are the last car on the train. Don't I know it, sighed the little red caboose. Poor me. The train went slower and slower and slower. Soon it was hardly moving. It looked as if that train could not get up the mountain. Look out, little caboose, called the flat car. The train is starting to slip back down this long, tall mountain. Not if I can help it, said the little red caboose. And he slammed on his brakes, and he held tight to the tracks, and he kept that train from sliding down the mountain. Then, bump! The little red caboose felt something push him from behind. It was two big black engines. They pushed the train up to the top of the mountain. We couldn't have done it, said the big black engines, if it had not been for the little red caboose. Everyone cheered, and the little red caboose nearly burst with pride. Now, children wave at the big black engine and at all the cars. But they save their biggest waves for the little red caboose, because the little red caboose saved the train. And look, there's the little caboose. He's got a beautiful wreath of flowers, hasn't he? Look, there's some bunny rabbits and some squirrels watching him. The train is puffing off into the distance. Where do you suppose it's going? The end. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. If there's anyone there, I actually managed to get through that in one take. Yay! So now, according to my understanding, yes. Stop. There we are. We have to make sure it goes in the right place. Red caboose. There we are. R-A-W. And away it goes. Excellent. At this point, I'm out of my depths. I've learned it. This far, it's Chris that actually takes care of the editing once all of this is done. Past the initial recording like this, he goes on to edit out my mistakes, put in the various sound effects if he decides that any need to be done. From that point, we go ahead and we shoot what he calls the bumpers, which are the first bit and the end of it when I'm talking to the littles and explaining the story coming up, and then the moral of the story later on after we've read it to them. So that's basically the process here. If you'll give me just a moment to sit down and rearrange things, hopefully if there's anyone there, I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you might have. So if you'll excuse me for a moment as I bustle about. I do know enough to put this away immediately. They've certainly drilled that into my head more than once. Put the microphone away first. And microphone stand, such as it is, we tried recording on the with it on the desktop, and it didn't quite work because of the vibrations. It made it terribly difficult to attempt to get a clean signal, as it were. So, Mr. Data, well, actually it was Mr. Bootstraps, upon realizing the problem, that made the suggestion of isolating it on the stool. And that's what we've been using. At some point we'll get a microphone stand, I suppose, but it's a terribly large microphone, and it's rather weighty, so we'll see what not and see what happens. So we've saved the file. I went ahead and I finished that. At this point, I suppose we can turn the fan back on to get some fresh air in here. And let me increase the lighting just a bit. Oh, I think I've gotten something in my eye. There it is. And we don't need these anymore. Now then, let us hope that if there's anyone there, forgive the momentary relocation. Oh, goodness. It's always good to sit down, isn't it? Now then, forgive me for a moment while I fiddle futz with this and see if I have an audience. We have an audience. And how I can look at myself and chat with you all at the same time. So, I crave your patience. Just a moment. We'll see if I can do this properly. Oh, hello. I do see people chatting. That's good. Now then, how do I switch the camera? Is it this? Ah, excellent. There we are. I trust you all can see me now. I hope. Ah, excellent. Let me, let's see, it's over here, yes? I've never done this before, so do be patient. All right, let's see here. Do I have to, oh, I can do it over here as well. How convenient. Hello, Lisa and Justamon, hello? I'm assuming that, yes, you're talking amongst each other because we were a little busy, weren't we? I'm catching up. I'm catching up. Percival is reading, obviously, but is this just to watch him? No, I'm giving you a bit more, you know, so it's a bit of a mishmash, as it were. Two birds with one stone and three bushes, as it were. Yes, watching the making of the next one. Yes, quite correct. You got it in one. Can barely hear my guy. Love the stories. Oh, unfortunately, the microphone was at a bit of a distance, so sorry for that. Hello, Grandma. Yes, off-grid. I'm sorry, I'm filtering names through the others' recognition here. So, daughter loves the little stories. Excellent. Good. Very happy to hear that. It's very important to me and to the others that the littles have a space where they can go and be safe, and we're so happy that we're providing that and some comfort through the tales that we enjoyed when we were small, or I did, or I'm not quite certain where. Apparently the literature was my department, so I suppose I might as well say I, although that's very curious. I hope you can hear me now. Do let me know if you can't. Percival, hello. Yes, good evening. Hello, EW. I'm not familiar with that, but yay. I think I'm caught up now. Is that all? Yes. Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Surprise, as it were. You can hear me. Oh, excellent. Yes. Quite well, yeah. I apologize. The camera was over at a bit of a distance from the actual microphone, and I have to record in that direction because the microphone is directional. Yes, that made much more sense up here than it did coming out. The point is I need to talk in that direction and not over, so. More of a lurker. Oh, that's quite all right. Lurk away. Just don't be, waiting in alleyways with knives or anything like that. I suppose that the internet lurking is far less messy. Oh, okay. Data's telling me to abandon the line of the joke, so I'll take his word for it. You can watch the story later on. Yes, once we're done with it. As I was just explaining to anyone who was listening, first I record the voice where I'm actually reading the story to or the vocal track. I'm sorry, obviously it's my voice since I'm the one doing it. Um, but we lay down the vocal track, as I'm told it's called, and basically I just run through it, and if there's any problems, sometimes they're a lot easier than others. Uh, Indeed. Um, do your best, I promise. Excellent. Let's see. And hello, I just won. Yes, I do. We are all so friendly. That's so refreshing. Anyway, in the process, yes. We go ahead and I record that, and they go through and Chris edits it and cuts out all the cursing and the terrible, dreadful mistakes that I do from time to time. Tonight was actually I got it in one. Actually, I was very surprised. Must have been due to all of you watching. Not much for him to do on the end, but we are starting to put the little voices and whatnot in here to bring the story to life, as it were. After that, and he's got that all done, then we go ahead and we set up here in a safe space, and I do the introduction to the littles, and then we immediately film the end bit, or the end bumper, as he calls it, wherein I give the moral to the children, and well, all of you actually. It's a bit of a 2-for-1 proposition, I suppose. And then he goes ahead and he brings it all together in his editing magic. I'm not terribly good at that. I know how to hit start and hit stop and where I'm supposed to press in order to record it when I'm out. But other than that, I'm afraid I'm a bit of a tyro. Excuse me for just a moment. They actually had the foresight to make me a mug of tea. So, do pardon. So, I think there were some comments. 4-year-old Anne wanted to say hello to Percival. Hello, Anne. How are you? Are you well this evening? I hope so. Oh, I didn't think we didn't think about that. We're sorry for any inadvertent switches that we might cause, or that I might cause. This gets terribly complicated. Oop. Let's see here. Did I miss any questions? No. Excellent. So we were recording. Rather, I wanted to record this part because frankly, it's difficult to get into the mood sometimes. It's the muse is a fickle thing, and it doesn't always strike when you'd think. So getting all of us in situ, as it were, getting us all arranged in our various layers so that we're all cooperating to make everything happen, can be quite a juggling match. Things need to come together because first we have our daily duties, and we cook, or rather Rosemary cooks, or it's a group effort. But then in the evenings, generally, we do have some time to ourselves, but we have to divide that between ourselves, and not forgetting the little ones, which we have a terrible tendency to do. I'm rather advocating for that, so. But it does take some arrangement, so I thought we might as well use this opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, as it were. I'm not. This may or may not be our end of month stream. I wasn't planning on hosting it, and I have no idea if they'll be doing it tomorrow, which is actually the end of the month. But regardless, I'm babbling on. Let's see what you have to say here. So it's okay. We just popped in to say hello and have to get going. Hope you have a good night. Have a pleasant evening to you, ecosystem. Thank you very much for stopping by. We hope to see you again. Or I do. I'm sorry if I'm not quite using the right terms. Tell us a little about you, Percival. We mostly know Chris and Rosemary a little. Yes, please do tell. Oh, well, there's not much to tell, I suppose. I'm well. I'm what I know they call a positive interject, which is an alter that is created based off of positive influences that the young person had in their lives, and sort of an amalgam of that. So I do understand that I'm not. Uh, well, I was going to say I'm not a real person as it was, but obviously I am. But I'm not created through the ghastly traumas that the rest of us have endured. If I was created in order to give one of those littles some comfort somewhere, or even the older one some comfort somewhere, then uh, so be it. I'm happy in that existence, and I don't see us going any way. I've always been terribly fascinated with literature. We read out our school library when we were in primary school. I'm sorry, elementary school. They had to bring books in from the local junior high and then the high school because I'd read their collection dry. They had to put us to work in the library there for, let's see, we're in the fourth grade at that point. Always been avid readers. Generally, I'm reading something long-haired and historical, and something fantasy or sci-fi. Then I have to admit I enjoy the trashy romance novel from time to time. Some of them are quite delightful, actually. Our first wife, actually, for one of our anniversary presents, she bought us a personalized romance novel where we were the dashing sea captain, and she was the fair lady that we won the virtue of. Oh dear, I'm going to embarrass myself here. I hadn't thought of that in ages. So yes, I suppose that I'm the literature end of the bargain. As it were, what you're really wanting to know is about Nigel and I. Nigel and I believe, came into it. It gets murky, truthfully. We've tried to define it, and the more that we think about it, the more it begins to hurt, frankly. Um, how do you. I remember things that most likely never happened, but does that make those experiences any less valid? Am I any more or less valid than Rosemary or Christopher is, for that matter, simply because I wasn't created through that process? Um, I don't think so. Percival, I am what I am. But Nigel and I appeared together. We appeared together one night. Now, this is the actual happenings that I'm relating now. Chris was journaling. Chris and Data, to be precise, were journaling, and we just appeared. Actually, Nigel came first, and then I followed shortly thereafter. Since then, we settled into our roles. Now, how I met Nigel, I remember it quite differently. But whether or not those memories are valid, that's an entire philosophical argument that I would doubt that we'll ever be able to solve. But we met in the park one day. I was coming home from the bookstore, and I had my arms piled rather high, and I had my umbrella under one arm, and I wasn't looking where I was going, and I was heading across into the street, and the next thing I know, there was a hand on the back of my collar, and here's Nigel whipping me back from the lorry that was, the bus that was whipping by and would have whipped me right out of existence as well. And, he helped me pick up my scattered books, and there was just something about him that made me feel safe, as it were. And one thing led to another, and here we are. I don't know. This is where it starts to become murky and a bit painful, and it's already starting up here. So at this point, detractors, say what you will. That's what I remember versus the facts. I have no idea if that answered any of your questions. Tell us a little about this. Well, that was more than a little, I think. I'm here. Please do tell. Yes, you're real. You're one of the safe alters. Thank you. I'd like to think that we're all safe to a certain degree, but gentle perhaps might be a better appellation. Regardless, thank you, my dear lady, thank you. Reading is so fun. Yes, indeed. You're doing great, thank you. Have you ever read Dean Koontz or Stephen King? Yes, yes, we have. The former is trash. The second has his moments, but is also trash in a literary sense. I'm sorry, we've been told we're terrible prigs, but that's all feelings on the matter. It's don't get me wrong. It's rather like the penny dreadfuls of the 18th century. It's literature for the masses, and it's like sitting down to a filling meal, like a good meatloaf and potatoes meal. It's filling, but it's not terribly memorable or tasty. That would be my my frank summation of no aspersions on the two gentlemen. I'm just saying. Yes, no, here comes the roast. Massive. Sorry, you did ask, and we make it a habit to always tell the truth. So, what else would you like to know? I'll happily skewer any literature that I'm familiar with. It's adequate, but so come ask. They told me that you would want to talk to me, so talk already, or ask questions, or whatever it is that I'm supposed to do, other than sit here quite awkwardly and wait for your next thing. What authors do I prefer, then? My little Pearl really likes you. Thank you, Pearl. Thank you, Pearl. Afraid to ask about others now. Well, EW had an excellent question. What authors do I prefer? Well, it depends upon what I'm in the mood for, frankly. Classics, literature, obviously Homer with the Iliad. It's quite a number of things. Plato's Republic is an excellent read if you're into the long hair, as it was. There's always Socrates. I prefer the classics of literature, obviously, but there are plenty of good ones. So let's see, young adult fiction. Susan Cooper for the Dark is Rising series. Mr. Lovecraft, of course. There's Mr. Poe. There's Mr. Philip Dick, who I understand. Ugh. She's going ugh. Any American... Oh, I see, yes. Well, I started with the classics. Any American literature? Well, I just mentioned Mr. Dick. Well, he did live in the British countryside, so I do suppose he might not count. American literature. Well, on the guilty pleasures end of the spectrum, there is Mercedes Lackey and her Valdemar series, which they're quite addictive. A little bit of a step up from the meatloaf, as it were. At least we would be into, well, not quite T-bone steak category, but, at least something better. A good meal out, as it were. But light fantasy. The ones that run on in 3 or 4 series, those tend to be better because there's more character development and payoff than the single ones. But actually, it was through Miss Lackey that Christopher. This is going to get a little convoluted, so stay with me. It was actually through her book Magic's Pawn, I believe the first one is. It's the last Herald Mage of Valdemar. The protagonist is a homosexual, is LGBT, and that was Christopher's first real exposure to a positive message for homosexuality versus what he was being exposed to at the time. We're leaving out all of the trauma exposure, which is another beast entirely, and goes to icky places. So we'll just stick to the basic facts that this was his first real introduction. Not that we were bigoted, but we did grow up in that type of an environment where it was not presented in a positive light, especially by our primary abuser, who was rabidly against it, and yet somehow found it pleasurable to bugger us every other Saturday night. So there's that then. I'm sorry. I tend to be overly blunt at times. So modern authors, yes, Miss Lackey has proven quite instrumental in some of ours. Miss Cooper, again, she was English. Goodness, I do seem to have a lot of UK literature on the plate, as it were, don't I? Oh, Miss Bronte, Jane Austen. Let's see, what else? Was I just reading? Oh, no, bother. Piers Anthony, The Incarnations of Immortality series. I'll be on a pale horse. It goes on 6, 7, 8 of them, I believe, in the series. Excellent, excellent young fantasy literature. Quite convoluted bother. Plots. This is what happens when I try to think too rapidly. Mr. Data says it's a disconnect. We'll choose to believe him, since generally he knows these things. Oh, yes, Frank Bolm, Wizard of Oz. Yes, excellent. Yes, Mr. Lewis, of course. Chronicles of Narnia, The Silver Chair. We read those when we were... Oh, goodness, I read those when we read those when I was 12? No, 11. 11, 12, right in there. Yes, excellent. Let's see here. We like O. Henry. Faulkner, on occasion. Robert Frost is a bit... I'm sorry, he was just... too much of the time. Ursula Le Guin. Yeah, oh, thank you, E.W. How could we forget the Earthsea trilogy? Yes. Oh, absolutely. Quite. First edition's excellent, yes. Read all those yes, the Incarnations. Hello, Juxtaposition. Oh, sorry, the others were... Well, we all cook on a bit. Yes, Blue Adept, another excellent series from Mr. Anthony. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, it's as though you're looking on our bookshelves, you know. Quite, actually, we were looking at the Adept series the other day when I was looking for something to read, and we're wondering if we should dig into it. Oh, Jack Chalker, Chaulker, Well of the Worlds, or Well of Souls. Damn, it's not coming to the front now. It's the Well of Souls trilogy. There's oodles of them. Damn, it's going to niggle at me now until I see it. Well, it's the Will of Souls trilogy. It's not a trilogy, it's a series. The main character is called Nathan Brazil. The Markovians are this ancient alien race that leave these machines everywhere. The Well World saga. It's someone out there, no doubt, will have some idea what I'm talking about. If not, look it up. Left Hand of Darkness, yes, another one. Milius. I'm not familiar with that one. Might have to, I believe we've missed one there. Yes, Well of Souls. It's Jack Chalker. Midnight at the Well of Souls, Exiles of the Well of Souls. Good Lord, there's only about a dozen of the books. It's a very long series, but rather good. Of course, there's Mr. Clark, Mr. Roddenberry, of course, Mr. Ellison. We already mentioned Mr. Dick. Oh, goodness, there's been so many books over the years. Lots of familiar friends. Unfortunately, our library is no longer what it was when we once lived someplace else, and before we moved down here, we were living with another young gentleman who promised that he was going to bring the 2/3 of our carefully packed library down several hundred miles to our new abode when he inexplicably made the decision to leave them up there abandoned, and so we lost a great number of our collections, and I've never quite gotten over that. Most irritating. Yes. Oh, hello, Roses. Hello. We didn't want to disturb you, or I didn't, and we were recording Little Red Caboose. So we decided, since they set it up, that we would kill two birds with one stone, as it were. So here we are. Hello. Say hello to Beep. Oh dear, I hope I didn't bring a little one out. You know whom I'm talking about. Yes, these days most of what I read is psych books. So I felt that I should do more recreational reading. I think everyone should have a book at hand. Nothing extra special, or this is where you get back to the mashed potatoes and meatloaf of Mr. Kuntz and Mr. King. There is always room for books that are not terribly challenging. I'm cocking this up even worse than normal, so. By tendency, books become part of us, so losing them is painful. Yes, it was. Books as a positive trigger. You mean as a calming mechanism? Yes. I'm sorry. I'm not the one to talk about with all of the system things. I understand the basics. As I said before, I know that I'm what I am, because as an amalgam, as it were. Regardless, yes, comfort, yes. Just finished Lord of the Rings series for the umpteenth time, my dear lady. Just getting through Mr. Tolkien's works once is a badge of honor to be proud of, especially if you can drag all the way through and then tackle the Silmarillion upon the finishing, which really does go into the true story of Sauron and the elves. But by that time, most people, they're rather like they're dried and desiccated and blown away. He's a bit dry, rather like Mr. Herbert for Dune. Another series. Tolkien needed a good edit. Yes. Well put. I tried but never finished that. The Silmarillion. Yes, it is dense is the word that best summates it for us. It's almost as though he took all of the unformed bits of Middle-earth history and threw them all in a bag, the bits that he chose not to use for the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers and Return of the King and on and on. And it's as though he just kind of stuck them in a book, hoping to come back to them at some point, almost as though a scrap bag, as it were, if anyone's familiar with needlework. So, but yes, dense. It's a slog. Have you ever read David Eddings? Oh, the Belgariad. Yes. Yes. Eddings. Oh, yes, he wrote the, oh, bother. A Man of His Word series. Princess Enos and Rap. It's The Looking Glass. Damn, why can I not think of the name of that book? Name of that series. Oh, bother. Damn. I'm tempted to go out and grab it off the bookshelf. Juxta, you must know the one that I'm talking about. Yes, the Bulgarian. Oh, damn, what is that? You know what? It's going to bother me until I do this, so I will be right back. There we are. I was wrong. I was wrong. Uh, it wasn't. Oh dear, where was it? It wasn't Mr. Juxta. It wasn't David Eddings. It's David Duncan. And the name of it is Magic Casement, and it's an excellent series. It's rather good. The rest of you here, I hope that this is the right way that you can see it. I'm not sure, since this isn't a mirror image, I suppose. But anyway, lovely cover. Lovely cover. There's some marvelous art in this one. So, that's the one that I was thinking of. You might want to make note of it. Let's see, scrolling back, let's see here. Diamond something night, Diamond Night, yes, I knew that Roses would comment on the Silmarillion. She is quite possibly the most well-read person that we've ever run across, and that's saying something. So, literature is definitely a forte of theirs. Very abusive. Eddings made a similar law for the Belgariad, similarly terrible. Revan Codex. I believe I've seen that noted. I'll check that one out. I need a fun book. All right, we're caught up now. There were a couple of others that I grabbed when I was out there. This is not the first volume, but this is the series I was talking about. Jack Chalker, Twilight at the Well of Souls, and let me see here. Yes, you want the name of the first book is Midnight at the Well of Souls. So Jack Chalker, Midnight at the Well of Souls, very interesting and thought-provoking science fiction, while still managing to be readable. Last, since you were asking about U.S. authors, this gentleman writes quite a novel, Mr. Stephen R. Donaldson, with the Chronicles of Sir Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, which is about if there's an anti-hero that I've ever seen in a book, it's this character here. Thomas Covenant is deplorable. This book, on the whole, books are sacred objects. They are not to be mistreated. They are to be taken care of assiduously. This book is the only one that, upon reading it, I believe it was about 2 chapters in, where I hurled it across the room and refused to pick it up again for a week and a half. It affected me that strongly. Eventually, I did finish the entire series, and he more than gets his comeuppance, but that's rather the whole point, is the man is an utter victim. There are no redeemable qualities to him whatsoever. He's given tremendous power in a world full of beauty, and the first thing that well, never mind. Those who have read it know exactly what the first thing is that he did. So, excellent book. I'm not sure why we're recommending it with such a deplorable main character, but have to say that it's well written. So there, a few more suggestions while we were on the... Okay, yes, okay, yes. Lisa, yes, he does. I have all those books. He's a total jerk, but I ended up adoring him. He's a complex character. There's no denying that. It's just still at the basis of it, I cannot overcome his initial actions upon appearing in the land. It's one thing, and we have some first-hand experience at the power of delusions and hallucinations, as it were, and how difficult it can be to deny them and maintain your own center of self. I think all systems can be uniquely qualified at that, but to be so amoral, even if it was his own fantasy, his own hallucination, why would you? I'm sorry, but I don't understand. There's no logic there for me. Uh, Sorry. Next, moving on. Yes, and his fate. Well, this begs the question, does one's ending make up for one's beginnings? Is it possible to redeem ultimate... Well, he's not evil, he's just indifferent in a hostile way. Although we can identify. We can identify. Uh, yes. Goodness, we haven't read that in a long time. This has stirred quite the discussion, hasn't it? Good literature causes discussions, yes. So, well, I've told you a bit about myself, and well, Nigel will have to speak for himself. What else would you like to know? Do comment. It seems as though there's only been a small group of us. Um, it's odd that way, but that's quite all right. Comfortable chat. What would you like to see? Oh yes, goodness! If there's any systems watching who don't already have a little a sheep on the wall, do please uh, put your put their names in the comments so that we can put up a next one for this episode. We have, oh goodness, I believe I think there's about 16 of them right now. There's one system that just asked us on one of the videos, but they didn't give their names. So I believe it was, yes, the Majesty. The Majesty, if you're out there, uh, if you're watching this before the episode, do write the name of your literals down there if you'd like, um, to make sure that they get on the wall. Actually, we're going to have to expand it and do a bit of mural onto our doorway and expand the safe space a bit. We're getting so many. We're going to be overrun with sheep, which is both a good thing and a terribly melancholy thing as well. Let's see. Lisa wants to know, why doesn't Nigel like to front shyness? You know, that's an excellent question. Um, I don't believe so. He's certainly not shy in other ways. Uh, I don't know. It's he hasn't seen the need. He really doesn't front. Is it front? He doesn't really front much. He generally, when I'm out, he's there along with me. But actually, that can prove to be most vexing because I'll be in the middle of recording the frontispiece and the end piece for the episode, and he insists on spouting the most inane drivel to distract me, and it's vexing in the extreme, and he makes me furious, and I know that he's doing it on purpose, but it's infuriating. So is he shy? I don't know. We've all made it clear that all of us, if we want to come out, if we want to make a presence, either uh, at home here or on the channel, that we're all welcome to do so. There's no pressure on any of us. His interest seemed to run to terrible practical jokes, teasing me, and fish. At least one of us likes fish. Um, Who knows? Perhaps he'll see fit to pop his nose out. He actually did comment briefly on the what was it called? The voices in my head, the one where we're all in the groceries, the grocery store, and he does comment at one point. Actually, he's teasing me or something. I can't quite remember what it is. So he's here. He's listening right now. He just has no need. I'm sorry. I wish I had a more firm answer for you, but so much of this is nebulous. As I was trying to explain before, I know that I'm not caused by the terrible events, but does that make me any more or less valid than little ones that I was created from positive influences to protect and to comfort? I don't think it really matters, but there you are. Let's see here. Yes, we answered that. EW wants to know, my little missus loves your videos. Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. We're terribly, we're pleased just punch that all of the littles out there are finding a safe space. And it's all right, little ones. No matter where you go, we shall always be available. So long as you have that magic little box in your hand, you'll be able to find us. Or the computer, whatever your older brothers and sisters on the inside prefer to use. And always make sure to ask permission, all right? Doesn't do to go bouncing about on the phone or on the computer without their knowledge, all right? Because sometimes there are things out there that littles aren't supposed to see, and only older brothers and sisters should see, all right? So be careful. I think that would be a good thing to do, don't you? All right. Now then, let's see. This is your videos. A bit strange for us too. Usually I don't see you. I don't have much need. There's the other. You have to understand. I am the literature. I am the little stories. It's a passion project, and yet it goes a bit beyond, because this is. It's enabled me to express myself in ways that I haven't been able to do so before. Whether or not I'm actually just another manifestation of Chris, it's beside the point, because we're all experiencing it. So I intend to let my freak flag fly, as it were, at least in so much as what I want to do. Damn it. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit off the track. So, yes, back to Nigel. I still demand Nigel's nature documentary. Roses is teasing us. Nigel was putting on a bit of a show one night, and he started, what was that gentleman? Steve Irwin, who did the nature shows from Australia and whatnot. And Nigel was imitating him one night, and it was quite funny. So she's getting on this. Let's note. He's teasing. Yes, so he only comes out when he's craving fish. Thus far, yes. Yes, thus far, because Bootstraps deals with all of the physical things and the labor and things like that. And so yes, I suppose Nigel is the altar in charge of fish. Les poissons. I don't know. He'll come out when he wants. If he wants. To be honest, and there is a bit of worry amongst us that to be blunt, our story is a bit fantastical. It's dreadful. Even we can't believe it. We have a hard time. And we have to constantly remind ourselves that the symptoms for the body are there, and as Mr. Data so succinctly put together, trauma does not lie. The symptoms are there. It's all there. I am here. I was there all along, but now I'm becoming more me. But there has been a worry that if too many of us make an appearance, it might cheapen the impact of the message that we're not trying to send, but, well, yes, trying to send, that these issues can be explored in a tasteful manner, that one doesn't have to be exploitive in order to educate, or we don't like to use that term because we're not professionals, no. We're sharing our experiences. So it's been a bit of a worry, and this, I suppose, is part of the stigma. Is it worth it to make those small sacrifices? Those small compromises that are compromising yourself, that are compromising our system, and compromising our ability to express ourselves freely? But is it worth it that we might be taken more seriously as a representative, as representatives of a system, of this disorder? So we don't want to sensationalize things. That's never been our goal, and we could, if we wanted to keep a running dialogue of every thought and everything that we did, every last meal and bowel movement. Goodness, I think no doubt that there would be an audience out there, but that's not what we're about, and it never was, and it never will be. We're just one system, hoping that we'll make someone out there a little bit less alone, a little more normal, as it were. So, I'm sorry, I got off on a bit of a tear there. It's been a worry. It's been a worry. Where do we draw the line? What do we show? What do we not show? There's things that have went on behind the scenes that would make good material, as it were, but only if you're tactless and tasteless and are willing to, forgive me, whore yourself out to the general population. That's not us, and it never will be. Some of you who are new to the channel might be wondering why you don't see more of us on social media. The answer is quite simple. We're dreadful at it. It's not second nature to us. In fact, it's very difficult for us to do because we are a covert system and have been for a very long time. And it runs completely counter to everything, every instinct that we have. So, I suppose after all of that blathering on, I should check in on the comments. I'm terribly sorry. I don't get the chance to come out and converse much, so... But then we all tend to ramble. Let's see here. So, catch up. So yes, Nigel comes out when he's craving fish, I suppose. None of us will get a handbook of good words to describe how experience of self works. There's value in trying. Very true. Very true. Roses, and also sometimes little ones know the credit card number and suddenly you have a hat with a fox ears on it. It was a lovely hat. It really, it was. It was a lovely hat. At least as that. We know the hat that she's talking about, that they're talking about, sorry. Yes, true story. Never compromise, see just a mom, never compromise yourselves or do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. It's not so much that, it's making you feel uncomfortable. There's a certain credibility, like it or not, there's a certain credibility to being male and being older. It's absolutely ludicrous, just simply the fact that we happen to have a penis instead of a vagina. on the body, should make no inherent difference whatsoever or carry no more weight. But the practical effects of the matter is that it does on a subconscious basis. And if that's something that we can use to, I don't want to say leverage, but to add additional weight to the point, to the science, to the facts, to the actual experiences, then yes, by all means, we're going to take advantage of that. But at the same time, we don't want to deny ourselves. It's a very complicated equation, as Mr. Data would say. So let's get on with the replies. Here I go again. Let's see. Well, I never thought of that, but I can see what you're saying. Yes, it's a sticky wicket, as it were. It's about system self-respect, I think. I want to post my first video, but it makes me uncomfortable, so I've been stalling. I want to, but I'm anxious. Just we were terribly anxious. Good Lord. We had to stop 3-4 times before we finally nerved up enough to do it, and then to actually put it out. We did have some previous experience because we had the other smaller, ridiculous channel about the paranormal, but still, that was playing. That was nonsense. This mattered. This was serious. We felt. They talk about people finding their calling, as it were, as though all the pieces suddenly fall into place, and you know what it is that you're meant to do, and you pursue it with a driving passion. And that's exactly how we feel once we came to terms, and we're starting to come to terms with who and what we are. It was almost impossible not to put our voice out there, as it was, and to tell our story, because we're the only ones who can. And much to our great surprise, never expecting to gain any followers or anything, people have responded to it, and so that makes us want to do more. So here we are. So don't be afraid. To be honest, the fear of the fear is worse than anything that could possibly happen, because your mind is constantly turning over every possibility, everything that could go wrong, and you get caught into that cycle where you're ignoring the good possibilities for the fear of the bad. It's basically that. So don't be afraid. Anything that could happen is not going to be as bad as your worst imaginings. And even if the worst does happen, delete the content. You're still in complete control. Do it. Get out of it. Go. Tell your story. All of you. Goodness. Please. I'm lecturing. I'm sorry. Let's see. Justin, you can ask me for a review anytime. Yes, please do. Glad you shared. Fascinating. You or any system or non-system are not to be used or viewed as a show. People cannot accept you and you as you, they can move on. Those who care or are truly trying to learn will be here. Thank you. It was a good lecture thing. Thank you, and we're glad. It's just the truth. Fear is the single biggest thing that holds us back throughout our lives. Fear of failure, fear of this possibility, fear of that possibility. Do you have any idea how much time we have wasted? It's appalling. It's absolutely dreadful. It wasn't until the death of our first wife when it really smacked us in the face. We're here for just a short period of time, and then we're gone. No offense to anyone's belief system. Believe what you will. The point is that we can all agree on is that life is a thing of great brevity and best cherished. So before I start on another one again there. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will turn with the inner eye to see the course of my fear. And when it has, yes, I will permit it to pass over me and through me, and when it is gone, only I will remain. It's been some time since we've read Mr. Herbert. Yes, Dune read those, all of them. Actually, quite looking forward to the new movie coming out. Oh, I have to admit that that I'm rather enthused, surprisingly, because the only one other than Mr. Lynch to tackle it since 1984. Yes, Mimi, I know it came out that year. Was dreadful version on was it this the Sci-Fi channel? Yes, yes, I remember it, or someone does. Anyway, it was adequate, a terrible waste of William Hurt's talents, but there you are. So, but the first preview trailers, yes, that's it. The first trailers do look quite promising, quite promising. So, excited, yes. And there's not much that gets us excited as a whole. But that is one of them, so here's hoping it's not a dreadful disappointment for all of us. Apparently they're splitting it up into 3, though, which is the proper way to do it. It's good that they're not trying to mush it all together. Let's see here. Okay, I'm backtracking a bit here. Do you think your first wife had any idea since you were all hiding from Chris? That, my dear lady, is an excellent question, and one that we were actually just pondering yesterday, or was it the day before? Because there were 1,000... There were 1,000 little things that she would do, that she seemed to innately understand us, or, well, me, us, I, the person the amalgam that considered itself to be her husband at that point, us at a younger point in the timeline, as it were. She seemed to instinctively know how to soothe us, exactly what we needed when. It was the little things like, oh, Bootstraps would be at work at something outside, and it would be hot, and without thinking or saying anything or anything, she would just come out at random with a cool drink and a sandwich. Just small things like that, knowing that we would be overlooking, that we wouldn't be taking care to eat things. When we would become overwrought, almost to the point of speechlessness, she would put us in the bathtub and give us a bath. It may sound ridiculous, but gentlemen, if you have a willing mate, I can definitely tell you, not in a sexual way, but there are definite benefits. It's a curious sensation at first to have another adult bathe you, but it was very soothing. We would lay our head in her lap and run her fingers through our hair, and that was soothing as well. But she seemed to instinctively know and to be able to deal or navigate with between our various moods. Would have been what we would have put it down to at that time. As one of our offshoot friends once said, we're a moody bitch. Guilty, I suppose. I know I am. No. Sorry, the girls were like, yes, well, you don't know anything about it, regardless. And I got off the track. Let us see if we can find that back out. Yes. Oh, yes. Whether or not we were all hiding. It's not that we were hiding, really. We were just, we all thought that we were one person we didn't know that it wasn't normal to have a dozen people in your head all nattering on about, well, really it was only 4 or 5 of us at that point in time. Some of us hadn't come forward. I hadn't. Perhaps I was there as an uncoalesced love of literature and British society. I don't know. As I said earlier, I'm an amalgam. I'm willing to flow with it, as it were. Doesn't invalidate me or any other art, I don't think so. I'm not sure if she had anything any real inkling, perhaps, that we were multiple, but she did have an uncommon ability to successfully deal with us. Um, yes, we'll just stop there. I'm going to get maudlin. So, hope that answers your question. Just a moment. You all and all have taught me tremendously about how to view the world in my daughter's eyes. I understand her more, and for that I will always be in her debt. You owe us nothing, madam. Just spread that knowledge to someone else. Be there for someone else when someone else is in duress. Be there, offer a shoulder. Be that person who says, is something wrong? How many times that we sat in our dreary job in a cubicle just almost wanting someone to come by, simply to just talk to us, to acknowledge our existence, and to acknowledge the fact that we're still a human being. And even though that we were hiding our pain and that we existed at all, be in debt to the human race, to all of the children who have no voice, who don't know any better, who might be in those bad situations, much like your little one. It's just be there for others. Pay it forward. Is that the expression that's being shoved into my brain by Mr. Tata here? Our brain. So, but however, thank you. But pay that forward, please, please. Gonna see the movie on IMAX with my in-laws. Oh yes, Dune, yes, as do we, yes. Sounds like your first wife was an empath, perfect in that situation. Hello, Naomi. It's excellent to see you. For the first time / again. Yes, she was most definitely an empath, very sensitive. The irony of it is that we were literally two peas in a pod, right down to our astrological sign. We were born, well, obviously years apart, but less than a week or two separated us on our birthday. So it was. There are moments in your life that stop. It's a freeze frame. There's a movie called Big Fish, where a gentleman is relating a series of tales about his life, which his son takes as tall tales, the tales that any elderly man tells to, make himself look better to his children. Turns out in the end, after all, he wasn't making anything up. But there's a scene in there that's always stuck with us, and it describes our meeting our first wife perfectly, which was where the character sees, Ewan McGregor's character sees the love of his life for the first time, and it's in a circus. And there's popcorn. People are throwing popcorn in the air, and she's across the way, and he's moving, and he sees her, and time stops. Time freezes, and the popcorn is hanging in midair. They're moving slowly towards each other, but it's as though the two of them are suspended outside of time for that brief span. And it was exactly like that. Not popcorn in the air, obviously. It didn't defy gravity, but that was it right there. So, yes, no doubt. We would finish each other's thoughts. We would also fight and peel the wallpaper, but even that had its enjoyable qualities, if that makes any sense. It's much like the way that when we met our second wife, we knew instantly. It's a bit of a complicated story, but we knew just as we had, despite all of the grief that we were still in the throes of and everything else, that she was the one. That this was another extraordinary woman that we had been lucky enough to have stumbled into our life by a series of completely odd interconnections. Quite a story in there. But just that we found another wonderful, loving, compassionate, patient, everlastingly patient and compassionate woman to be married to, well, not all of us, obviously she's not married to me. Nigel would take issue with that. But the rest of us, as a whole, because we are all, in the end, married to her, at least the body is, but we're terribly grateful because she has been through so much. Just a terrible amount, and moved through it with grace and love and aplomb and dignity, well in keeping with the finest women out there, if I don't say. Forgive me. She's tolerated so much. Regardless, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there. But they've both been marvelous. So, excuse me, getting a bit stuffed up here. Emotional. All right, where were we now? Let's see here. Yes, Naomi, it's terribly good to see you. Excellent. Borealis system, hello. Your first wife seemed like a very kind person. She was terribly kind. Virtually the opposite of us. We've basically been cold and cynical and suspicious our entire life. I wonder why. Good reason, yes. But she was of the sort that always saw the good in people, no matter what. And the dear thing, she had so many medical problems. She lost her leg 6 months before we met her. She eventually died of kidney failure. The dialysis could only keep her around for so long. It was dreadfully painful and lingering death. But she faced it with a remarkable amount of grace. We only ever saw her lose her temper at those things once, and she apologized immediately. And we're like, darling, if anyone deserves to be angry, please, it's you. Yeah, she was terribly kind. A perfect counterpoint against our terrible suspicion and fear. Odd how the universe works, no? Almost as though we're all bound together in some sort of a giant pattern. So yes, thank you. She was. Hello, everyone saying hello to each other. Yes, I love Big Fish. It was the same with my second husband. My first husband knew when I was multiple, when I didn't know. Yes, you see, it sounds so ridiculously corny, but true love does exist. The one, they do exist. We've been extraordinarily fortunate to find two. In that respect, we're one of the luckiest men that we know. Despite everything else, we've had the opportunity to experience true love twice in our lives, when many may not even get it once. So, small recompense, perhaps. But there it is. You have to recognize the good with the bad. Protect Mrs. Infinity at all costs. Yes. Yes, and we came dreadfully close to losing her last fall, due to a combination of different factors. But a large amount of it was our own failure to use the tools that we were learning, and to reach out. And it's been extraordinarily difficult for us to rewire our way of thinking, because all that we know is based entirely upon the dreadful things that happened to us, and the household that we grew up in was so terribly toxic. We would literally leap out the door the moment that we got home, drop off our books and run, well, except the one that I would be reading, and head over hills for the outdoors. There was a small creek that ran by near where we lived, and that was our refuge. And that was our hiding place. And there it is. So, yes. We've had to relearn those things because trauma-based responses do not make for good, healthy relationships. And yes, well, as I said, and we've said, because I know that Chris has touched upon this briefly, there are things that are relevant, but whether or not we can or should or will share them is an entirely different matter. This one we're still chewing on, frankly, because there is a lesson to be learned here, which is trust your support system and talk to them. Communicate clearly and don't make assumptions and allow those assumptions to cascade into suspicions, which then become round and round and round we go, and we end up with a terrible, terrible day when the entire family explodes. And we've been doing our damnedest, all of us, to pick the pieces back up and put them back together again. And more than that, to change our behaviors. We're at the point now where we're going, oh, I'm reacting this way. Why am I reacting this way? Oh, it's because of that. Okay, well, we're no longer doing that. So what can we do to make our reaction better? Or come up with a new reaction? I think that would be a good thing to do, don't you? That's about the way that it runs inside now. And it's a running battle. Because everything that we are has been shaped and formed by this terrible abuse. And it's frightening and exasperating to reach beyond it. And to remind ourselves to reach beyond it and to reach out when we were told over and over and over again never to say anything and never to trust anyone and never to talk about it. Or bad things would happen. So it's extraordinarily difficult to reach out, and it's taken a bit of a group effort. And the others might actually be cross with me mentioning this to this degree, but it needs to be addressed. We made some terrible mistakes, and it's because of the DID and because of the trauma, but that doesn't excuse our actions. There's a lot of talk about system responsibility, and that goes doubly well for your relationships with others, your loved ones around you. Do not take it for granted that they know what you're feeling, that they know exactly what you're thinking right now. That what is blatantly obvious to you that you're screaming out is obvious to them, because it's not. It's not. And we were so far off that it nearly cost us everything. So case in point, it's not only learning the tools to manage the disability and its effects, but it's applying them and desperately desperately seeking an outside perspective. Because when you're in it, you don't see it, and it's very easy to fall right down Alice's rabbit hole into chaos. So there you are. There's another lecture. I tend to do this more than Mr. Data. Goodness, no wonder they keep me inside. No, I'm joking. They don't keep me inside. Let's see here. Yes, do not apologize. Roses is saying trauma wires the brain to expect unsafety at all turns. And trying to rewire those connections into the ability to be safe is an absolute nightmare. Yes, well put. Well put. It's rough. I'm glad you have a supportive family now. Yes, we always had a supportive family, with some bumps and bruises here and there, but it's learning to trust others is one of the most difficult things for a trauma survivor, because everything inside of us screams no. Oh, hello, Scorpion System. Yes. Sebastian, I believe. Yes, Sebastian. Check me if I'm wrong, but generally I'm pretty good with these things. So, hello, Scorpion System. I'm fairly sure that at least one of you is named Sebastian. A good name. We were just, well, rather, I was blathering on about various and sundry things. Feel free to ask questions. We were rather hoping that, oh goodness, what was it named? Crazy Eyed Me, a new subscriber, a young gentleman who had some questions. But then we also haven't decided whether or not this constitutes our end of the month live stream or not, because technically that's tomorrow. But if you actually go back, I'm sorry, those of you who are just coming in now or weren't here from the beginning of the stream, we started it off with me reading the voice track for the next Little Stories, which will be the Little Red Caboose by request of Roses. So we're happy to fulfill that for her. We have several others lined up. Let's see, there's Scuffy the Tugboat that we haven't done yet. And then we recently just purchased another. We've been filling in our old collection of Little Golden books. And we ran across I believe it's the Seven Little Postmen. It's a wonderful story, wonderful story about this letter that undergoes all these fantastical journeys, and in its the end, it's a little boy's letter telling his grandmother that he's coming to visit, and so it's quite the story. So we have those coming up, but. And in between, I know that Data's been plotting something, but sorry, our parts don't connect much. Oop, I'm sorry, I keep knocking that thing over here. Let's see, no, feeling greedy. Self-trust after trauma can be incredibly difficult as well. Hello, Valerie Lim. It's a pleasure. Yeah, System Live is last Saturday of the month. Oh, goodness, I went out of focus. There we are. Hello, come back. People will miss you. Oh, yes, that's true. Well, they got a 2-for-1 then. What time is it? Actually, oh, it's 10 o'clock. All right, yes. Isn't that the truth, Valerie? Yes. Roses is sending us a lovely heart, yes. And we do. You've been such a good friend. Friends, because there is more than one of you. And that's even speaking outside of the body. And I know that we do tend to call you out for it, but thank you. Thank you. You have quite literally made the difference between us staying on this particular plane of existence and shuffling it off someplace else from time to time. So thank you. And you know, we are here anytime. So, again, love much. Yes, Blush, absolutely. Scorpion System, I was worried you guys may have left for a while. No, we're always here. We may have missed some stories, but really appreciate the work that you put into them. Oh, no, not at all. We put them all on a playlist, so they're there for everyone to see. No, it's been a quiet month because there's just been a lot going on. Just one of those confluences of things that have to be done versus things that we would like to do versus the amount of time that we have to do them in. Getting those all to align is quite the juggling match. So it's just and as we were explaining earlier, we're not good with the social media. We're on Instagram. That's the best way of reaching us. But other than that, we don't post all of the sordid details of our lives, which is apparently what it would be required to live up to the expectations of the Twitter crowd. There's a cesspool if I've ever seen one. No offense. Just it's rather like a foreign world to us. We were raised with a modicum of manners and good taste and tact. Uh, Raised means half raised and half programmed to be that way. Uh, Sorry. Everywhere you look, there's the trauma. And we were made into quite the perfect little pet. Sorry, the others are telling me not to go on. So no, Scorpion system. We're infrequent. We don't push anyone to do anything, so it can be a little bit of time. Plus, actually, to be completely forthwith and honest, the past week and a half we've been dealing with a particularly nasty flashback of some of the Christopher D's trauma, and it's been terrible, and it's been quite the struggle to utilize all of our tools and our mindfulness. We've been doing a terrible amount of physical labor, which pleases Arielana to no end because she's getting her plant shelves and her porch and everything built. So happy elf is a happy system, I suppose, but the rest of us are left to deal with the aching muscles and whatnot. But it's basically it's a running race. You're trying to stay ahead of the trauma. Use the DBT and the distress tolerance skills to divert your mind. But unfortunately, there's only so far that can go, and can make for some black evenings. But that's what friends like roses are for. So. Let's see now. Moving on. So yes, I'm sorry. I know that we're bouncing back and forth here. I'm not used to being in the front for this long, honestly, unless we're recording. Let's see. That was a question I had. Do your alters all trust each other now? No. No. I'm exaggerating slightly. We, like any group, we have our disparate personalities. There are rough edges, and we do tend to abrade against each other from time to time. Um, Nigel and I stay fairly quiet. We have our own space that the others respect. They don't come poking, and we don't go poking at them. But we're free to ride along, as it were, as we choose to observe things, or one of the others will fill us in if it's important, and we're curious. What was the question again? Sorry. Yes. Do we all trust each other? When pitch comes to scratch, yes, we will do. This cannot be said clearly enough, and this is, I will wager, is true for 90% of the systems out there. We will do whatever it takes, no matter what that is, to survive. This is what we do. This is what our brains programmed us to do, and other forces as well, depending upon, obviously not everyone was subjected to the things that we were, thankfully. There is nothing that we will not do to protect the system. So, do we trust each other? Insofar as that goes, yes. Are there personal squabbles and issues of trust and boundaries? Oh, yes. Early on, about the same time that Nigel and I had just come forward and formed, as it were, out of the nebulous headspace, Mimi and Miss Mimi and Miss Rosemarie got into a terrible row over something, and would not speak to each other at all. Very, just terribly hostile, and pins and needles and prickles and cactuses and things, and they would not tell us what it was about. Both of them maintained a stone cold silence on the matter, and to this day, we do not know what it was about. We know that they came to an understanding, or at least agreed to disagree, as it were, but neither one of us has told anyone else, not even Data, which is odd because Data knows everything, more or less. Poor chap. But so I hope that answers your question. It's yes and no. It's complicated. So let's see here. Let's see. So, okay, given that for me it'll be Sunday morning, I'll need to get ready for work. So I'm very glad I was able to join this live stream. Thank you, Naomi. We are terribly pleased to see you every time that you come in. We worry about you as well. It's not exactly a peaceful part of the world where we are, and we do care. So do be safe and stay in touch. We do appreciate that very much. Oh dear, I lost it. There we are. Um, but yeah, so I don't know if we'll stream again tomorrow or not. Scorpion System. Twitter is toxic indeed. We don't understand Instagram. It's a bit confusing. Think of it as oh bother. Um, I can't think of a good comparison. I'm sorry. I don't Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. YouTube is my only social media. The rest is kind of rude a lot of the time. I like a happy life. Yes, indeed. As long as you're all doing okay, love, know all of you are snug in our heart. Take great care. Thank you, Scorpion System. Excellent. Person with DID has already proven, no matter what, that they have one common goal. We will do whatever it takes to survive. That is so well said. Cold wars are the worst. Yes. Yes, they are. We're fairly harmonious. On the whole. Oh dear. Excuse me, there's a feline outside, and I believe I hear a thunderstorm rolling in. So, yes, I'll return. If the stream cuts off suddenly, that's why. And everything. Oh, yes. I don't like them, but I do need them to see. Or the body does. Sorry for the brief runoff. It's fortunately it wasn't pouring cats and dogs on the poor cat, but we are terribly responsible pet owners because, well, those of you who follow the channel know that we have a particular, what do they call it, trigger with cats. So, responsibilities still, though. So, yes, save the meow, save the cheese. Yes, yes. Love that background wall. Thank you. It's multi-purpose. We designed the trees out of what's it called, construction paper, and actually we need to redo them. They've gotten quite faded. Next time I think that we'll spray them with a shellac or something. Keep them bright. But we were thinking about doing murals on the wall, which we might end up painting the door over here because we have so many sheep. Goodness, we are almost 50 now, and there's another 14 or 15 that we need to print out and put up there before the next episode. So yes, it's rather multi-purpose. We just made it so that we could film our important talky educational piece of Mr. Data's things, and slip in and out fairly easily. We've worked in theater before, well, directly and indirectly, so we know how to make the most out of it. It's a pack small, play big is the credo there, and it works well. So yes, multi-purpose. Let's see. Kitty cats kind of weirded my brain out that the paper trees were moving in the breeze. Yes, and yes, it's the air conditioning, I'm afraid. But yes, we actually had them. We're getting a little bit over ambitious, and I can't remember who exactly it was who was constructing it, but they were carefully gluing down each leaf so that it would blow individually and everything. And And Mr. Teacher's like, yes, and that's going to create an endless array of reflections coming off the camera. And this, and it was Miss Mimi, actually, who at that point piped up and said, we're just going to stick damn things down. I'm sorry, I can't be Miss Mimi, but the gist of it was that we're just going to glue the damn things down and be done with it. Of course, it was a bit more colorful the way that she put it, but there you are. So uh, there will be set improvements. We just the chest, for example, we found a much smaller one, which is much less difficult for me to open up there, and we can actually do this lovely shot where we actually get to see what's inside of the chest for a change. Look, more books, and there they are. And actually, if you watch closely, the books that are in the chest at the time when we open it up are either the ones that we've just recently read or the next one coming up, generally the next one coming up. So tightening things up and making little changes to the safe space, but part of the agreement with our wife was that it basically had to be more or less semi-removable at the drop of a hat, even though she's been dreadfully good and given us basically the room to do with what we want. So, but again, hooray for her. So let's go back to the chat here. Let's see here. So yes, the paper trees moving in the breeze. What type of kitties do we have? They're both, they were strays. They were from a litter. Their mother dropped them off at the back door when my first wife and I were coming home from the grocery store. And it had just rained, and I was about to put my foot down, and all of a sudden I heard this mew, or rather we did, sorry. If I say I, just pretend that it was, well, it was me back then, regardless. We were about to step down when we heard this mew, and here are these two little orange bundles of fur and mud and bone, and picked them up and brought them in and cleaned them off, and apparently the mother had left them there because we had been feeding them. And so took them in and got them all dried off and whatnot, and I believe Bootstraps was trying to take the hard line of, no, we don't need more than one animal, da 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 da, please choose one. Well, that went over not terribly well, and within 30 seconds or so we had both Colby and Cheddar, the two brothers. So they are short hair, American short hairs. I'm not sure of the pedigree, truthfully. Uh, Orange and white. That's one of them is a bit more of a buff color. The other is a brighter color with like an ocelot pattern to his fur almost. So, but we've always had kitties throughout our lives. Many, many kitties. It's yes. So many kitties. Let's see. My cat Molly died 2 days ago. Oh, Lisa, we're so terribly sorry. She was 19, so I had a long life. I was missing her. That's how I ended up here tonight. This has been great. I'm so sorry. We're so sorry. Um, we're terribly sorry. We do, I don't want to say make offerings or everything because we're not religious as we're. We'll send some thoughts to the deities involved with cats if that would meet with your approval. It's we do the same thing for all the ones that we see on. Well, oh dear, we're making a dreadful cock up on this. We're sorry. We're glad that this has helped a little bit. Sorry. Damn. It's all right. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty, Molly. I'm just think of the happy things. All the happy things. Cats are marvelous. Spiel straight. Well, the show of the dog is a big help. Go find a kitten. Go to your local shelter, or if there's a stray nearby, it's a. I firmly believe that all homes should have a cat, at least one. But cats do best in pairs. That much is true. No matter what they would have you believe. But yes, having a doggy, or a dog, I'm sorry, is it a dog-o now? That's what they're called? Not a doggy, a dog-o? I have a dog too, he's a good boy, very cuddly. We've always had a passing fancy to have a beagle. I don't know why, but I rather like beagles. They're just so terribly droll. It's almost like they're, just too happy to realize how Oh, I'm doing dreadfully here. I can't quite put it into words, but they're sad, happy dogs, I suppose, is the thing. But we're not generally dog people. Oh, guinea pigs. Yes, we had one. The work, 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 work noise. Oh, goodness. I will never forget that. We'll have a Yorkie. She's so sweet and knows when we're dissociating. She grounds us somewhere. So yes, the cats do that for us. Uh, yes, Roses is talking about her cat. Quite a marvelous cat, actually. Quite a story there. Group of cats over here, too, but can't afford if one gets unwell, except for the taking one of my own. Cats are unique in that they domesticated themselves. Yes, they said, "Ooh, look, humans, we can rip them off. Let's go over and look big and doe-eyed and fluffy." And that was how cats domesticated themselves. Oh, they're zooming in and out. Sorry. There we are. This is why I don't normally run the camera. My dog is a Beagle Pug mix. He favors his hound side, looks a little like a mini pit bull. Beagles are so cute. I agree. Beagles were adorable. Not bad. Yes. Oh, all right, all right. Um, if you have any other questions, do ask. We're starting to get that dreadful headache that happens when one of us is too. I'm not used to being up front this long, and there's just. It's always a constant battle because there's always everyone who wants to do this or that or the other thing. It's rather like a tug of war, but I know that we're starting to get that nasty headache, and Mr. Data and well, they're telling me that it'll only get worse if we push matters. So please do ask any other questions that you'd like to know. Otherwise, I'm going to, I guess, end this in about 5 minutes or so. I do hope you'll forgive me. I just, we really don't want to have one of those. Oh no, don't delete messages. Currently I have a senior. Hello, Teresa. I hope you're doing well. I have a senior kitty behind me and the youngest baby on my legs. Thank you so much. I feel like I know you better now. Not at all. Not at all. Cat showed up around ancient grain storehouses to hunt the mice and rats attracted to the grains, and humans went soft. Yes, yes, indeed. Human, you are mine now. Let's see, we were great. Thank you. What do you feel the most passionate about, as a system or as an individual, as it were? Uh, as a system, I can't answer for the entire system. As for me, what do we feel most passionate about? The littles. Providing the safe space and the stories for the littles so that they have at least one reliable thing in their lives, one constant that they can know is always there. No matter what, they can you can sit them in front of the phone, or allow them to do it if they're big enough to do it, and they can pull up Mr. Pooh and be able to hear the story and see the interactions beforehand and hear me speak and see the stuffed animals and Mr. Bear and the most important word being love. It's the repetition. Children need repetition. And things that they can rely upon in order to feel safe and then to heal. So that's the main thing. There's many layers that go into the little stories. We are approaching it from several perspectives, and if there is one thing that we are passionate about, it is that, particularly myself, because we did not have a safe space, none, none. With the sole exception of our grandparents' house, which was 2 weeks, 4 if we were lucky, every summer we had a refuge. We had a refuge, and according to our late therapist, that was one of the things that kept us out of the homes, basically, and more or less enabled us to muddle our way through together until we broke down. So we want desperately to provide that for the children. For us, for example, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. We always knew that Mr. Rogers was going to be there, and that he was friendly, and that he was safe, and that he was talking to us as though he were another child or that we were adults, just like him. And that made us feel safe and important. So we want to be able to do that for the littles, to give them a safe environment where we can listen to those stories again that we bigs heard back then. So it's drawing on those positive memories and those positive associations to create a warm, safe feeling environment that is predictable and will be there for them when they need it. If it's 3:30 in the morning and suddenly they're in distress because you've had a flashback or something, you can go ahead and put on the playlist, and all you have to do is press play, and they can go from there. It's a reliable, steady thing. And as I said, there are many layers to the show, and the way that we are presenting it, from the height of the camera. When it's filmed, we have it deliberately set from the viewpoint of a little, because they are the most precious and dear part of us, and they should be treasured and sheltered and not exploited. I'm sorry. The others are telling me to bite my tongue. There are certain opinions that may not be popular. Regardless, so just ignore that. Let's see what else you have to say. So yes, that is our passion. So powerful. I actually got chills. And as for yourself, I say your comment helped our little so much as well. Thank you so much. You're most welcome. Mr. Rogers was the best. Fred Rogers had such a way. And there is a movie with Mr. Tom Hanks who plays Fred Rogers, and it is a stunning movie, heart-wrenching, but it shows how Fred looked at the world, and the fact that he never forgot how a child sees things, because children and adults do not have the same perceptions. One of the most interesting things when Christopher is fronting, that was quite a shock, discovering that we had completely forgotten what it was like to be a child. Quite the experience. Oh, come on now, where's my chat? Hello? Live chat. There we are. Okay. Dreadful thing. Let's see, yes. Mr. Rogers was a great anchor point for our system too. Such a good feeling to know you're alive. Yes. Loved Mr. Rogers. I cried all the way. Yes, that's A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. That is the one. Yes. Yes. An excellent movie on many levels, just for the nostalgia factor alone. So, yes, indeed. And actually, that's an excellent place to end it on. Fred Rogers was a strong influence in our lives. And to be honest, he was the father that we didn't have, or rather the pleasant one who didn't abuse us in any number of ways. So for that brief period of time, we were able to escape and pretend that Mr. Rogers was our dad and our father. And perhaps, well, if there's a little bit of Fred Rogers in me somewhere, perhaps I patterned a bit off that, and that's where it came from, then, well, they do say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and unconscious imitation must be even more sincere then, but I can think of no greater tribute. And I think that had he been aware of DID and aware of systems and littles, that he would have reached out to them as well, especially more. He was a remarkable man. And at that point, I think we shall call it quits. Thank you all very much for putting up with my endless rambling about everything under the sun. We'll have the new episode that I was recording the voice track for at the beginning. Well, I'm not quite sure. You'll have to talk with the others on that. Generally within a week or two of me laying it down. It depends upon how busy we are. So thank you for that. Thank you for our time together. I can't tell you if they'll be back tomorrow or not. So we may be or we may not. It was a pleasure to see you all, a pleasure to talk to you all, and to answer your questions. So, Thank you for that. I'll scroll right back up for these last ones. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Off-Grid Grammar. Scorpion System, such a gem. No, thank you, I hope. Tell Nigel that, would you? I hope you have a wonderful day, evening. Take care. Good night, everyone. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. It was time. So, you're most welcome. Good evening, everyone. And remember, you're loved, you are strong, and you're not alone. Au revoir.